What's the project?
I'm allowed to say.
Byron Taylor, from the start, take one, action. Well, first of all, introduce yourself.
So it's Byron Taylor from Wolverhampton. I'm 32, do gospel music, singer-songwriter. I'm open to writing for all genres though.
Have you ever written for another genre before?
No, but I'm going to do it one day. Oh, and actually my dream is to write for Disney.
What, like music or like songs and lyrics and...
Some lyrics more so, and melodies and stuff, but like obviously composition and arrangements, I'll just leave that over to them.
Let's say I'm Disney. I say I need a songwriter or a composer. What kind of style would you bring to me?
Well, my style is the classical element of it all. So I'd go back in time and try and bring it forward. Elements of... so I'm naturally a gospel artist, so I put the two together.
Okay. So from the Disney films that have, previously been made, which one of those would you say has influenced sort of your music now and potentially your music in the future?
Like I said, the Disney classics, so that's all the 50s ones. So for example, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and then before would be Hunchback of Notre Dame, Pocahontas. Those are my main go-tos. Fortunately, not Lion King, not this time.
Alright, so what would be your favourite song from any of those?
Hunchback of Notre Dame's Hellfire. Bit grim. But it is what it is. Pocahontas, probably Colours of the Wind. Cinderella, the opening main title.
Right, so Byron. So we're just going to discuss a bit about you, a bit about your artistry, your work and your creativity, and any projects you may or may not be working on at the moment. What is something that your listeners don't know about your music that you wish they did?
That it's not solely just plucked out of my own creativity. I've pulled from different genres of music. Like for example, Angels on the last EP was inspired by Dreamgirls.
Which part? Or which song, I should say. Dreamgirls, because there's like...
We are Dreamgirls. Dreamgirls will never leave you. He'll be there, yeah. So go back to the EP, Get Guided by Faith, and listen to Angels. Buy it.
So we've seen a lot of behind the scene content that you've been posting, like yourself in the studio and stuff at church. Could you tell us like sort of what it is that you're working on when you're in those studio sessions?
A project, and it's a rearrangement of things, of music I've heard growing up that have been performed by the church choir. This one isn't originals, but it's familiar music that I've rearranged and put my own spin and twist to.
So there is a project on the way then?
Yes,
for sure.
For sure.
What made you decide to want to do that type of project?
I feel like a lot of some of the songs that I've picked are all, there's no hard copy of them.
Okay, yeah.
Like a hard, tangible, I like this particular anthem, let me hit play.
Yeah.
It's just not there. And a lot of people don't read music, and a lot of people aren't singing those songs overall in churches anymore. So I thought, you know what, let me put a stamp on it and put it there.
Forever. So
forever.
Almost like a museum.
Almost.
You're taking the songs and you're putting them in album form in your little Byron and Favour museum.
Yes. And it's also kind of like a tribute to those who used to sing those songs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of having their mark in history forever, almost.
Those people being...
So initially, those people who would have been like the senior members of the church who sang the church choirs whilst I was growing up.
Yeah.
They sang those songs, and there's often not anything left of them other than pictures and stuff. So this is almost like a tribute to them, and so you'll be like almost immortalized.
Is this a project that you would only do once, or maybe you would do this part and then maybe in a few years you'll do part 2 and then add more to it? Or
I think this could be it,
One and done.
Yeah, man.
Right, so get it while it's hot.
Yeah, it was a hard selection of what songs were going to go where or what songs were going to be chosen, because there's like so much songs you actually really like, and it's like, which one should I do? Which one should I do?
Yeah.
But I don't want to do too much.
That's fair. In a few words, not too long, describe your creative process for your music.
I don't really have one, A creative process. It's not like, I sit in my man cave and think, it's more of like all off the cuff kind of thing. It all just happens sporadically.
What's the first song that you wrote?
He Reigns was the first one I wrote and put out there.
Okay.
The song before that was is in a book.
Okay, so yeah, being that your first song you wrote, then how did that come about? Like, what was the process for that?
All sporadic. It was at a missionary trip, and the preacher was preaching, and the song came, but it wasn't inspired by the preacher. It just came out.
So your latest one now, what was the process for that?
So I'd been listening to the whole Disney stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of close harmony quartet kind of choral sounds to it. 4 or 5 part harmony. I was just like, and this is years ago, I thought, oh, I want to write something like this. Weren't sure how I was going to do it. That was the time I thought, let me have a stab at it.
Yeah.
And a part of the lyrics were actually inspired by Away in a Manger.
Away in a Manger.
Yeah, Christmas song.
From your original first song that you wrote to your latest song, like how would you say your process has evolved in that time?
Now I think I'm more intentional about it. Or I can be more intentional about it. Whereas I think I still work with the sporadic and the off the cuff stuff. I think now I'm more like, you know what, be more intentional about it and test yourself. Like if this is a topic you want to talk about, write about it. Which would lead me to, if someone says to me, write me a song, I'd have to do it.
So when you first started writing songs, it was more based on a feeling or emotion, and you want to be able to get to a point where you can sort of just write a song.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not necessarily your feeling, but if somebody wants you to create something for something, then you'll be able to do so.
Yeah, something I just tap into. Because sometimes it's someone else's experience as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So how would you go about like getting to that point? Then do you just keep writing and then just, is it like practice makes perfect type of thing?
It's not a write it all in one sitting. It's start writing, go back to it. Start writing, leave it alone, go back to it, edit it, change it.
And in that time you'll write other songs.
Yeah.
In terms of your vocal arrangements with the singers and such things, how do you come up with those?
A lot of it's still inspiration from music I've grown up on. So gospel and classical, fusing the two together, or the jazz putting the two together, and I'll just sit on a piano and pick. What do I like there? What do I like there? Do I want it to be close chords or close harmonies, or more?
So for the rest of us that don't understand what a close harmony is,
I don't really know if that's the right phrase.
well, you said it. It's not the first time you've said it either. You've said it a few times.
So close harmony, in my opinion, or in my interpretation of that, would be the close harmonies would be like the jazz quartets. You guys watched the episode of Friends where Ross brings the quartet into Rachel's workplace.
Oh, like a barbershop quartet.
Like the barbershop quartets.
Okay, yeah. That's a close harmony.
Yeah, and like the 4-part harmony kind of stuff in the sound. So, for example, in the choral settings, there's a lot of that. Those 4 5 part harmonies.
If you could have one gospel artist to feature on the project, who would it be?
Depends what for. So for example, Richard Smallwood, I'd get him featuring on there for him to play. Dead or alive, I would say, okay, gospel, I will say Karen Clockshed as a female artist. As a male, Donnie McClurkin, Kurt Franklin. Very, very different. As a musician, I'd pick Richard Smallwood. As a producer, I'd ask Donald or Kurt Carr. Secular, I would ask Luther Vandross.
Why would you pick some of those people?
Richard Smallwood, because of his musician skills, his piano skills, I think is absolutely amazing. And I feel like he's just like the embodiment of classical music and gospel. Luther Vandross, in terms of secular world, his voice is absolutely 10 out of 10. And his vocal arrangements, in terms of his BBs, are absolutely flawless. Donald, his production skills are heavily reliant on Luther Vandross. And I think he fuses gospel and that together. So it's like, I feel like Donald's music is really romantic, and I feel like he could put that into it. Kurt, I think he's got like a theatrical gospel thing going. So it's like a merge between Disney or theatre Disney, gospel, classical, all in one.
Are there any particular artists that we may know of that sort of have inspired this project?
Walter Hawkins.
Just the general style or something specific?
General style.
Yeah.
And Kurt and Richard Smallwood.
Being that, as you've said yourself, there is, like in terms of your music as well, there's a lot that you've pulled from and a lot that's blended together to create gospel music and sort of your music. So what is one ingredient that people don't realise is crucial to your sound?
One ingredient that's crucial to my sound? You gotta know how to sing.
I don't think that's crucial to your sound.
I was gonna expand.
Go on.
Being able to have a big voice, specifically, I don't really do light singing.
Give me something a bit more personal then.
I'd say yes. I'd say understanding my musical influences and what I expect. So, for example, it doesn't have vocally. I think you're all going to be great. A lot of people can be great at it. Understanding the vision and having the same mindset.
So would that go across then vocalists, musicians, and everybody
Everyone.
of understanding sort of your influences and why you do certain things for them to be able to then add their own
100%.
flavour that fits in with the
Yeah.
overall tone.
As
of what
opposed
you're trying
to,
do.
this is what you're doing isn't current, and I only can do what's current. I need someone who's open minded, like I see the vision, whether I like it or not. It makes sense. I can do it, and we're going to work together and do it.
Okay, that makes sense. Is that something that you keep in mind when you're looking for singers / musicians or engineers or whatever?
Yeah, like if I hear that if you're one track minded, or if you just, I'm like, this is going to be harder than it needs to be because I don't have to convince you.
So, if someone was to write a book about this upcoming project, the first line would say what?
I remember when. In 1992.
Byron was born January 17th.
Yeah. Nah, I say in the early 90s. I don't know the first line, but it would stem from being in this church.
The last time we spoke about this project, I think was talking about it's more about the influences, like which songs, and then we sort of played some of them.
Oh yeah. My thing is, I want to give people an insight of my childhood musically. Other than doing Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine, or Great is Thy Faithfulness, or Trust and Obey, because those are very typical things you hear. You know, you're in a concert and someone sings "Tears So Sweet" and everyone goes, "Ah!" Like, well, yeah, we do that all the time. And
It will be a unique project anyway, because it's not something that you hear very often, or at all, to be honest.
and I also want to say educate people or broaden people's horizon.
This project will appeal to young and old as well.
Yeah. Like a tick box, it's done. I've had it done. Whether someone likes it or not, I like it and I'm happy for it. I'm happy to do it, kind of thing.
Alright, so in regards to then you creating music, as you just said, it's not so much... Obviously, it's good if people do like it and pick it up and, stream it and whatnot, but would you prefer a project that you yourself are really happy with, that maybe doesn't do well? I'm not saying it won't. Or would you prefer a project that maybe you don't like as much, but then knocks it out the park?
Well, it's funny you say that because I don't like He Reigns.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it, and I'm just like...
You can't say that on camera, you gotta pretend to love it.
But I like it though, it's brilliant. When I start singing, I get into it. Alright, it's not too bad after all. But it wasn't my
not
favourite.
really your style, as such.
As such, I don't know if I don't know.
Like, it's not your passion.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. And I'm also happy to give people what they enjoy. If they enjoy it, then they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? And I do enjoy my own stuff, and I do enjoy the song, but
Right, so here's a question that probably a lot of artists get asked. Do you listen to your own music, like in the car when you're traveling and stuff? Do you listen to your own stuff and be like, you really getting into it? Or is it a bit, like when you don't like hearing your own voice on camera?
Yeah.
Is it sort of like that?
At first, I didn't listen to it at all. Any of them. I didn't listen to any of them. And then eventually, I started to be like, I got used to myself, especially during COVID, and I had to watch it. We had like the live streaming and stuff, and I'd watch back services for tips or pointers for my own self. I just kind of got used to it, so now I'm somewhat used to it. But most of all, I think I listen back to critique it to do something better the next time. In
terms of improvement, then, and critiquing, like, what have you done differently on this upcoming project to your previous one?
I've been more intentional about how we sing things in the studio. So, for example, techniques of where the breaths go, how words are supposed to be sung, and not just blasting it out there.
Being that you've done it before now, so this is like your second project, is it shorter in terms of is it more efficient now that you've like gained a bit more experience, or is it the same length, or is it longer because you know more, so you're trying to achieve a better finished project?
It's quicker in the sense of I know what I'm doing, but the time spent in the studio is going to be more intentional, more intense.
Yeah.
So in terms of time, it probably could be just about the same thing. So please buy the previous project, Guided by Faith. Stream it, put it on your radio stations, put it in your playlists.
In terms of you've got on the tracks, when you perform them live, do you perform them like as a one-to-one, or do you change the live performances slightly? Like, you might see Kurt Carr's and Fred Hammond's, what they've got recorded isn't necessarily what you'll hear perform, or they'll perform it that way after they release it for like a year or two and then they'll switch it up. Do you intend to do things like that?
Yeah, I have done it already.
Okay.
So, for example, He Reigns on the actual track is quite a shortened version. I think songs like on the very first singles, like songs like 4 minutes, but a lot of that's like musical interludes. So I've got a lot of them have repeated choruses and stuff, because sometimes you just got to have the audience. If the audience are loving it, you just keep it going, kind of thing. Here's My Praise, the same thing as well. Depending on what singers are there, will depend on how high we go. So I'm like to be pretty flexible with it all.
Will you play around with the arrangements or the tempos, or
definitely play around with the arrangements?
So before we end this interview, is there anything that you want to share with us that you haven't already?
Not really.
What's the project?
I'll tell you. You gathering it from all the other questions?
What can you give the people before we sign off?
So what I will say to you about this project is it's not what you think it's going to be. In the sense of, like, when you hear, based off what we've said, you'll start putting pieces together, but it's not exactly what you think it's going to be. It's not the obvious sound. So you're going to be surprised. Maybe somebody's going to be disappointed, but I hope the disappointment changes with the quality that's been given to you. And then you like it.
Yeah, I've heard bits of it. It sounds good so far. Last question then. Do we have a date?
That's what I'm throwing that out there.
Right, so we can look forward to, we can have people driving around, windows down.
Yes.
And your new project will be playing in the background.
With the bun and cheese, yes.
Praise the Lord.
And cut action, that's it, right? That's good job, everyone.